KS Legal wọ́n gbà.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yeside Asolo, so I'm a partner at Kaide Shofola. The topic for the session is the business of film, legal strategies for distribution, licensing, and international partnerships. So I know that obviously you're not legal experts, which is why the lawyers need to do with the contracts. But what I want us to think about is that the legal infrastructure needs to match the creativity so that the value is not lost. What we will cover today is chain of title. One of the things we'll cover is chain of title. Now, this is the foundation of everything. If there is a break in your chain of foundation, the deal is lost. Everything is gone at this point. Second thing we're going to look at is the licensing framework. What are you really selling? I don't like to use the word selling. I rather use license. What are you licensing? Third thing is international partnerships. What you need to look at in terms of international partnerships. And the last thing is 3 things I want you to live with that you can implement as you leave. Okay, so I have this provocation here. Your film does not belong to you until a lawyer says it does. So until I say it belongs to you, it doesn't. So I want you to be in your seats, Madam President, saying, what do you mean by that? So creativity builds Nollywood, but the legal infrastructure will sustain it. So as President has said, you have looked for money, you have invested, you've produced this film, but your chain of title. One crew member, one actor, you didn't sign an agreement. They haven't transferred the IP to you. And you think that you have a film, there's a problem. There's actually a problem. And all your hard work could potentially go to waste. Okay, so let's look at this scenario. You've made a great film. People like it. The buzz is real. And somewhere between the rap party and release date, something happens. Uncleared rights, you signed the wrong agreement. Somebody else is making money. So I don't know if you remember in 2017, Okafor's law. That's the maybe he said it, I said, okay, he knows about this. 2017, just before the movie was about to premiere, there's a court order saying this film cannot go on. And that could have easily been avoided if all the rights were cleared. A simple agreement saying, I transfer the IP in this to you. That would have solved that. But time, money, as DG said, makeup, your beautiful dress, all is wasted and you're in a panic, flustered, you've lost money. So this is not a creative failure because the film was great. I actually watched Okafor's Law and I actually liked the movie. But it was a legal and commercial failure that could have easily been avoided. The most important question that you're asked in any meeting will be, can you prove you own what you're selling on license? If you don't, deal is done. So I want us to think about our intellectual property as an asset. Think about your title document to land. When you're going to buy land or a house, you're going to check who the previous owner is. You go to Alausa and make sure you check. There's no encumbrance. The person didn't use it to take a loan and hasn't paid back and gone to clear that, they paid the loan back. So remove the encumbrance on the property. So same thing as the IP. You need to make sure that the chain is complete. So the full documentary trail of the movie, from the idea in your head to the finished product, you need that documentary trail. Or else you have a liability, not a film. And as DG was saying, a lot of producers have BP. You don't want to be in a position where you have high BP. So now, what is the chain of title? What are the components of the chain of title? So first of all, options and assignments. So if your movie is based on pre-existing material, so somebody's book, you need them to assign the IP in that creation to you so that you can exploit it. So if it's based on somebody's life, now under Nigerian law, Obviously, somebody cannot copyright their life because it's a fact that I was born at this time. I don't want to disclose the year, but I was born. But it's usually better to ask the person for permission, and if they need to be compensated, financially, they should. So make sure that you have all the rights. Even artwork in the film, you need to make sure that the artist has cleared that you can display his artwork or her artwork in the movie. Placements of brands. You can have brand collaborations, but you need to have agreements with them that you can have Coca-Cola bottle showing in the movie. So all rights need to be cleared. A verbal agreement is not enough. So you must have written documentation. Second thing is financing agreement. I know that it's easy to be tempted because you're looking for finance for your film to give away the IP totally. Please let us avoid this. It's better to give them money made from the film rather than giving away the IP for short-term finance. Work for hire contracts. Now, this is where producers really get stuck. Just because you've hired a director, you've hired an actor, to do a performance in the film, they need to assign that performance to you. So if me, as yesterday, I act in your film, my performance as whatever character is my creation. It belongs to me. So I need to assign it to you, President, that yesterday I saw acting as Sarah in XYZ movie. I assigned that performance right to you. Music clearance. This is always a big problem. I got it from YouTube. It's not clearance. So you need to make sure that you have synchronization rights and master's rights. You can't have one without the other. You need to have both of them if you're going to have music in your film. And finally, E&O insurance. So errors and omissions. This is usually required when you're seeking financing or for distributors. So if there's a break in your chain, you won't be able to get the insurance. So now let's know the types of protection that are available. So for your scripts and films and score, this is automatic based on the Copyright Act, but you should still register it because documentary evidence is still the best form of evidence. Second thing is your title, your logo, and your brands. You can trademark these. Production technology. We're in the world of AI, so you could protect this under the Patent and Design Act. Same thing with your costumes and merch look. For your scripts and deal terms, non-disclosure agreements. And then, like I said, performers and recordings, you need to make sure that they assign those rights to you. Okay, so how does Nigerian law protect your work? The Nigerian Copyright Act is the foundation. So it was signed in 2023 and repealed the old law. This was rather timely because the old law didn't protect audiovisuals. So now, the new law expressly protects audiovisuals and digital copies, which is what most of you all deal with. So protection is automatic, like I said, but it's always better to register so that you have documentary evidence. Now, second thing is, moral rights cannot be bought. They are still retained. So what I mean is, somebody has assigned their IP to you, but they can't assign that it was from them. So you still have to credit them for that. So now you need to deal with this in your agreement, saying, if they want to be credited in a certain way, they should be credited that way. And if you want to portray them in a certain manner that they don't like, so maybe a debasement, or maybe you want to portray them as, say, a prostitute or something, they can still object to that. So you need to deal with moral rights in your agreements because they survive. And final thing is, under the new law, the protection has clock and teeth. What I mean is that infringement of your intellectual property is now a criminal and a civil wrong. So you could get damages, and then they can also be sued for criminal prosecution. So I'm sure we're aware of the example of Ned Niger. He's being prosecuted right now by the NCC. Okay, so now let's look at the non-traditional methods of protecting your IP. Right now in Nigeria, no one can say for certain who owns AI-generated scene or score. Now, this is not a problem for the future. It's something that I need to deal with now, because I imagine that AI is already being deployed in some of the productions that we have right now. So this is an exposure that is already here. It's not in the future. It's already here. Okay. Now let's take a look at how the world is dealing with this. So in America now, the US Supreme Court has said that if there is no human authorship, you can't copyright that. In England as well, they have a slightly different take on it. You can copyright work that has human elements, but they have used AI. So they have a slightly different take. But the law is still evolving. But we can see that the general theme is that there must be some human authorship. And even if AI was used, was it the data that it was trained on, was it licensed? Okay, so now let's come back to Nigeria. We're Nigerians. So the Nigerian Copyright Act, even though it's a new law, which is fantastic, it didn't envisage AI. It just didn't. It foresees a human, authorship. So it's created for humans. So while the law is still evolving, this is still something that we need to deal with while the law is catching up. So the law is playing catch up on this point. But we need to think about how we manage the exposure for AI. Okay, so now let's look at where AI exposes you. So ownership on chain of title. So like I said before, chain of title. So if there's any AI element, there will be a break in your chain of title because you can't guarantee that the AI element, you own it. Because under Nigerian law now, there's no room for AI. So the training data as well. Was it licensed? Whichever data that the AI tool you're using, did it get permission to do that? If not, that litigation risk travels with your film. Second thing is likeness, voice, and performance. So if you use AI to replicate RMD now, for instance, you need this permission to be able to do that. And then contracting forward. So all your agreements now, you need to disclose about AI. If not, you can't guarantee that you have a clean chain of title. So you need to disclose. Okay. Now this is also a money problem. If you can't guarantee a clean chain of title, financiers will be wary of wanting to finance you. And then you breach your warranties. So it's a problem that we need to deal with now. And how do we deal with this? Okay, sorry. This is the third risk bucket, like I mentioned, which is using people's likeness. So under Nigerian law, there's a breach of their privacy. So like I said, you cannot use RMDs. I like RMD. He's a good-looking man. Hence the reference to him. So you can't use his image without his permission. So that's a breach of his constitutional right to privacy. And also under the Nigerian Data Protection Act, it's sensitive data. You'll be breaching the Nigerian Protection Act. And in Nigeria, we don't have a right to publicity. Abroad, they have that. But, the idea is the same, that you cannot use their likeness without permission. Okay. So now, contracting forward. What does every contract now need? You need to disclose where there's AI used. And I see that our DG, Nigerian Film Censors Board, requires that AI in film production, you need to disclose it transparently with appropriate indemnities executed before distribution. Now, for consent for likeness and voice, like I said, you need to get RMD's permission before you use his voice or his likeness in your movie. And then warranties and indemnities. Whoever is supplying you the AI tool that you're using, you need to be sure that the data that they've used, they have a license to use that data. Okay, so now, it's not all doom and gloom, because I'm sure you're all thinking, AI, isn't this supposed to help me? Why is it now a problem? It's not all a problem. If you have your clean chain of title, AI is now a revenue line. So if you have your clean chain of title, your documented rights, and your enforceable contracts, the opportunities are abound. So you can now use your catalog. You can now license your catalog for people to use to train data, because we have so much content, so much cultural content that can be used to train AI. So I have that our first AI film, Make Mission. I'm not sure if anyone knows about that. It was entirely done with AI. And I know that the Nigerian Film Board has partnered with an AI, Plot Weaver AI, to deploy AI storytelling tools nationwide to filmmakers. So AI is not a threat. Opportunities are abound with AI. So it's not all doom and gloom. Okay, so now let's look at distribution. I don't want us to focus too much on the methods. What I want us to focus on is that each type should be licensed separately. So we'll get to license, right? So I'm sure we're all familiar with the methods of distribution, so I don't want us to take too much time here. Okay, so now this is what I want to focus on. So you are not selling your film. So I want us to say that you are not selling your film. You are licensing a bundle of rights. So I think when we had the previous session and the gentleman was was very upset about making money from the film, I want us to think about IP as an asset, right? So you're not selling it, and so the only way to monetize your film shouldn't be only at the cinema. There are several other ways to make money from your film, and I want us to think about it like that. So the most successful filmmakers are those that think about intellectual property as an asset that keeps on giving for years to come. So I have the example of Ryan Coogler, producer of Sinners. So his IP is going to come back to him in 25 years. And I also have examples of other Nigerian filmmakers who have monetized their IP very well. And surprisingly, I'm not surprised. Funke Akindele, she got an award today earlier. So she has very much monetized her IP in the Jennifer. So from 2008, when it first came out, she has done series, she has done a sequel, she has done a feature film now that grossed over 1 billion at the cinema. So in Abraham as well, has monetized the Alakada franchise as well very well. So the point I want to make is that think of IP as an asset that should keep on giving. And so you should never give it away very cheaply. You should always retain the rights in your IP. So what you should do is grant specific rights only, named territories, fixed period of time, and particular media. So what you keep is everything else. Reversion rights, the rights to do a sequel, prequel, anything you want to do, and other territories where you want to license the rights to your film. Okay, so this is where I wanted us to focus on knowing the revenue streams, right? So we know that there's typical cinema and non-cinema window, but there are other means to make money from your film, which I think we should focus on. So merchandise, stage adaptations, gaming, the opportunities are abound, which is why it really hurts when I see that producers just sell away the rights to their film in perpetuity. It really does hurt. So next slide. So 2 clauses that make or break your deal: hold-back clauses and territory. Typically, the theatrical window is 90 days. So I want us to think about licensing in terms of Nigeria first, West Africa, Africa-wide, and then the rest of the world. Okay? So I have it there that license narrowly and reserve broadly. Never ever grant worldwide rights. Like, why are you doing that? And never give anything in perpetuity, because in perpetuity means forever. Why do you want to give somebody something forever when you can have it back? You can give them for a limited period of time, but then have it back. So I want us to think about that, all those agreements that we see. If you're unsure, don't ask ChatGPT. Ask a lawyer, please. ChatGPT can only do so much for you. It cannot personalize your individual situation. So ask a lawyer. And like I said, if you're unsure about anything at all, if you see a perpetuity, red flag, you cannot give anything to somebody forever. You need to have it back at some point. So that should raise alarm bells in your head. Okay. So now let's look at international partnerships. So we've said that Nollywood is a global conversation. Fantastic. But if the legal infrastructure does not match that, then value is being lost. Okay? So now, the 3 things that we need to look at for international partnerships. Okay, so now 3 non-negotiables in international deals: your governing law and dispute resolution. So obviously you go into a relationship, marriage, whatever, you don't plan that it won't work out, but you have to plan for when it does. So this resolution is not just a nice to have, it's very important. So I think that we should always push for Nigerian law. Even if you don't get it, push for it first. Don't just accept English law, American law, or whatever other law it is, depending on where the counterparty is from. Push for Nigerian law, always. And the Nigerian Arbitration and Mediation Act that we have makes Nigeria a favorable seat for arbitration. But as we always say, try and mediate first, because you can still salvage that relationship rather than going all out into a fight. So second thing is IP. Like I said, IP. I need to keep on going on about IP. So even in international productions, co-productions, you need to decide who owns the IP. Because when there's joint ownership, it assumes that you both agree to monetize your IP in certain ways. So if I disagree and I don't want you to be able to license it in certain territories, right? So if I have an American partner, I should be able to license it in Nigeria and not need your permission to be able to do that. So all those issues and those terms need to be in the agreement. How to be monetized, how money will be split between the parties in the co-productions. And then finally, your regulatory clearances, so which is where the Nigerian Film, Video and Censors Board comes in. You need to make sure that you have all the clearances that you have, especially in Nigeria and in other jurisdictions where you want to show your film. Always important to have the regulator on board. The regulator is not the enemy, he's a partner in this journey. The regulator is your friend, he's a partner in this journey, and please see him as that henceforth. Okay, next slide. Okay, so like I said, the 3 rules I want you to live with: get your documentation in order before you seek distribution or before you try and do anything. Chain of title, it cannot be broken. All the agreements, all the T's need to be crossed, all the I's need to be dotted. Right? Second thing is reversion clause. Whenever you license, like I said, I don't want to use the word sell. Whenever you license your rights, when is it coming back to you? Forget about the royalties, forget about money. When is it coming back to you? Should be of importance to you. And finally, read the definitions. When it says territory, rights, owner of IP, all those clauses are very important. Because you need to know what territories, are you licensing it in? What rights are you giving away? You are giving away just distribution on certain media, but nothing should ever be given away in perpetuity, like I said. So my final slide is, my 3 things summarized: know what you own, know what you're licensing, and know the terms. Right? So the legal infrastructure around film is not the enemy of creativity. It makes creativity sustainable. So if you're unsure, get a lawyer.
Just one question before we go to the session.
My question is very simple, right? When we see a lot of corporate structures try to engage with Nollywood, many times there's a disconnect between what you're offering versus what the reality is on ground. How do you intend to serve smaller producers and sorry, sir. Thank you. How do you intend to serve smaller projects? For example, people who do not have like 250 million for a film. I'm sure you know that that's the majority of Nollywood, right? Because we can talk a lot. Whether or not you like it, yes, you can offer pro bono work, but that's not sustainable. I run a business, so I'm not going to even go down that route. What I want to know is, for example, if I have 300 producers, which I represent, what are you offering them for their type of projects that is sustainable and matches their reality financially? Because that's the only sustainable way to engage with this industry. Thank you.
Everybody, my name is Kolade Adewoye. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Yes, so I think the first question is related to this actually. And thank God there are top producers around here.
Okay.
So the top distributors are around here. So based on her question, is there a possibility for your organization to say, okay, we're going to take, let's say, we are going to charge you 1 million. Let's take 500 cash up front. Let's collect the remaining 500 after, let's say, your theatrical run, where the producer has the hope that, okay, look, some of this money is going to come back after the whole waterfall and tuition fees. Is that something that, as an organization, you'd be open to? And as a lawyer, as you speak in front of everybody here, bearing witness, this will be a verbal contract.
Well, as a firm, KS Legal, we believe that the appropriate measures should be deployed at the appropriate instances. For example, if a movie, let me say for the cost of 20 million, comes to us and say, these are the services we want you to do for us or to help us in doing, we have to look at what is on the table compared to a movie of 500 million. So it can't be a flat rate levy or charges. Sometimes a lawyer may look at a movie and say, this movie has the opportunity of booming beyond even the imagination of the producer. And say, okay, for this, let us take this upfront. And by the time the food is ready, it is subject to agreement. That is why the essence of lawyers coming in is to negotiate. Lawyer, this is what I'm bringing to the table. Lawyers, they look at it and say, no, why don't you go this way? This movie, yes. You need funding, yes. How do you ensure that at the end of the day, when you're getting your funding, you don't sell everything away? There are people who are interested in funding, the venture capitalists who are interested in putting their funds in movies. When you come to the lawyer, you think it appears good, but at the end of the day, it will take away everything that you own from the movie. For example, I know some, like the back of industry, also supports some productions. Because when they do, the interest you pay is less compared to other private investors. Some will give you a cow, give you a goat, and demand for a cow. While Bank of Industry is interested in ensuring that you deliver value and you get returns on your investment. Because any movie producer is in the business. The essence of every business is to generate revenue, returns on investment. So as a law firm, we will ensure that cost measures are taken to ensure that, depending on your pocket, we'll service you, but we'll ensure that the quality of services will not vary, irrespective of the cost of the movie. Anything worth doing is worth doing well.
Thank you. But, that sounds like a lawyer's answer. Sounds like a lawyer's answer. What we're looking for is,
yes.
So, is that something you would consider? Is that something you would consider? You would have conversations.
Yes, we would have conversations.
Yes. Okay, so my next question is around piracy. Now, this is a personal belief, but I'm sure it's shared with the rest of the hall, that once your film is on YouTube, it's basically the last leg of its life. Yes, it's gone because of piracy. So how does that affect? So if someone comes to you and tells you, oh, legal services for my film, and then they are telling you, oh, it's going to go on YouTube first, how does that affect your conversations around E&O, as Anita taught me one time, or around E&O and around the premiums that you pay in terms of risk of piracy?
Okay, so first thing I would say that if, depending on the type of films you do, don't go to YouTube first if you really want to monetize it in other ways. That's just as simple as that, honestly.
Okay, so basically, like, if it's going to YouTube.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I said that depending on the type of films you do, if you do films for YouTube, that's fine. But if you want to monetize it in other ways, I wouldn't advise to do YouTube first. That's just a simple answer. Yeah.
Right,
Don't go to YouTube first if you want to monetize it properly in other ways. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then my last question, really, so that we can end the panel. Also on piracy, also on IP protection. So, assuming there was like a leak for a film, in terms of the framework that you mentioned insurance. An insurer would ask you, you pay this amount, you pay these premiums so that you can be made whole, and they assess the risk. For you, what would you use to communicate to the filmmakers that, okay, look, this is your mode of distribution, these are the risks we see in it, and also what are you going to use to value how much the film will be to the insurer so that they can now actually, because so just for everyone to be clear, this is not commonly practiced in Nigeria right now. And it's, as far as I'm aware, I'm not aware of anybody that's insured their film that if it leaks. So, this could be you guys making it for everybody. And so what would be your approach? Especially so like someone comes to you, you tell them, okay, look, this is how much we value the film, this is insurer will meet, this is how much we pay in premiums, so that in case anything happens to that film, this is how you get your money back at least and make some of the investors at break even.
Okay, so for this, right, I would say, I don't know, the mathematics of it all, right? But what I would say is,
I know it's a tough question, don't worry. I know it's a tough question, don't worry. And just for context, I'm asking because of Anita.
Do you want to take this on top, right? Because my answer, you said
Okay, a non-diplomatic answer.
Well, the question is a very important question, and it requires an answer. Wow.
Okay, so the question was on piracy protection and being made whole in case your film was pirated. So it doesn't commonly happen in Nigeria, but abroad they actually pay insurance for the risk of piracy. So in case something happens, they can get some money back from the insurer after the insurer has assessed it. So I was asking for what would be the framework around valuing the film, looking at their mode of distribution for the risks, and then meeting an insurer telling them, okay, this is how much it's going to be, and this is how much we pay in premiums.
Yes, sir. Judgment. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. In addition to what he said, initially I remember when the DG said you have to bring in accountants and other auditors, because the reality is it's a business. At the end of the day, tax agents or tax officers will come and say, you've done a business. Income came in. Let us see your books. So before an insurer will partner with you in any movie, the first thing they will do is, what is the value of the movie? What do they stand to gain? If we chose to liaise or do business with you, what do we have in return? Or what do we get in return? So, IP is a very lucrative asset. But for an insurance company to partner with you, they have to be certain that this IP is yours, one, and that on the long run, this movie will sell. For example, she mentioned the movie earlier. When I said, Okafor's Law. Yes. It was a beautiful movie. But even the Bible said, when the foundation is bad, what can the righteous do? If the foundation upon which the movie is predicated is faulty, no matter how beautiful the idea is, it goes to nothing. Because indeed, law does not protect idea. It protects expression of ideas in permanent mode. I can have a movie in my head. Genevieve will be the lead actress. Kunle Remi will be the lead actor in my head. The law does not protect that. But the moment I put a pen to paper and I start drafting, the law steps in. From that stage, if anybody, a script writer knows I am already putting my skills to use and he expects returns. That is why a movie producer buys the script from the script writer to say, how much is, let us amortize it. 100 million, 50 million, I'll pay you off. So whatever falls from that movie is yours. Profit or loss. You cannot buy a property and say, oh, they did not inform me that they were owing Ikeja Electric. Both the asset and the liability goes. So in this instance, I think it is important to have that conversation with other stakeholders, accountants, auditors, because at times movies are scored. As an insurance company, assuming I'm an insurance broker, and they bring a movie to us, the first thing I do is, has the movie been scored? Because I am not into the business of movie production, but I would depend on the experts' views from professionals to say, this movie, they say tomato ratings or something, where they rotten tomatoes, where they will say this movie is 3, at one time I want to watch movie, I say 3.7 over 10. This movie will not be sweet. The same view an insurance company does. Oh, 7.5. I think the chances are bright. Let me go in. Sometimes, rotten tomato may get it wrong. Because what determines whether a movie will sell is for example, somebody produced a movie about kidnapping. Suddenly, kidnapping happened in your state. I need to see what happened in that movie. The events in the current issues in the society could help in driving the commercial revenue from a movie. Everybody knows Funke Akindele has a registered line, Jennifer. But it's not just the movie that sells. The effort she put in, the road shows, the adverts, the jingles, they literally put the movie on your face. Even before it gets to the cinema, you already know something is coming. And that is what, as an insurance person, they are bringing the movie to me. Because at the end of the day, you may not be able to determine how the movie will move. So you need an insurance person to come in and say, okay, let us take the risk. If it booms, fine. If it doesn't, a lawyer will now tell you, look at the document. Before you put your pen to that document, ensure that at the end of the day, the revenues does not outrightly go to the insurance. As they are protecting you, you are also getting value for your assets. Because anything that comes from the brain is an asset. That's why they said the most expensive estate in the world is the grave, where brains are buried every day.
Thank you very much. You're welcome, you're welcome. So they will know that their lawyers think on the spot very well.
We know how to do that, don't worry.
So actually, that was my last question. So I think we have come to the end of this. And thank you very much, everyone. We hope at least that Q&A has given a lot more thoughts to how to protect your film. Thank you very much.
Thank you.